on the News Channel 5 network. This is Open Line.
Hello everyone, welcome to Open Line. Happy Wednesday night. Hope you're having a great night. We have a good topic tonight. We are talking about elder law. So this is a chance for you to call in and get questions answered. Say you're caring for an aging loved one. Parents are aging. What are some things you need to do to help financially prepare for that? That's one way I would explain it, but I can have Tim Takacs explain it much better. You can do much better than I just did.
I hope so.
Tim, thank you. Thank you for being here, Tim.
You're welcome. It's always great to be here.
Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
And all right, explain elder law.
Yeah, in 50 words or less or whatever.
Yeah, how would you define it?
The way I sometimes, you've heard me describe this before. It's basically the only area of the law that is, it's based upon the population served rather than a particular type of law. So that means that our practices, we represent older people. So the law is estate planning, wills, powers of attorney, trust, public benefits like Social Security, supplemental security income, SSI, veterans benefits, Medicaid, TennCare, all of those sorts of things is really the stuff of what we do.
And your primary client, I mentioned somebody who has aging parents.
Yes.
Is that who your primary client is?
Our primary client is the aging parent.
Okay, that is your primary client.
That is our primary client. Now, and I should also mention is that also part of the law is usually like things like conservatorship, fraud and abuse, elder abuse, elder financial abuse, all those particular things that are kind of unique, because of the older people, the older population. They have particular vulnerabilities perhaps because a lot of our clients have chronic illnesses, and so they are in need of like good care. So a lot of what we say is when we are planning for an older person is that it's the personal care needs that they have that often drives the planning.
Mm-hmm. And what have you seen come through your door in the last? You come on here every other month or so.
Yes.
What have you seen come through your door since you were last on?
I'm trying to think about.
Or an amalgam, I guess.
An amalgam.
What are some things coming through your door? Maybe this time of year. Is it different this time of year?
Well, of course, what we're really kind of gearing up for now is that we're gearing up for Medicare open enrollment. We know which starts in October. And we all know that. In fact, we were talking just before the show is that. We have our own Takacs McGinnis Elder Care Law Hour, and we tape tomorrow, and it runs on Friday mornings. And so, one segment of our show tomorrow is about Medicare, and in particular in anticipation of open enrollment. And what we find a lot of people, particularly right around this period of time, they start thinking about, they start getting stuff from the government, they start getting mail from insurance companies or whatever that's saying is, look at me, and our job is to really cut through the confusion and cut through all of that information that it's out there, that people will read about and they will hear about, because the best plan, as far as certainly selecting a Medicare plan, is the one that fits you. Mm-hmm. And that's really a lot of what we do. And in the last 2 or 3 months of the year, is make sure that our clients, who we have a relationship with and are hiring us to do all these other things for them, we also want to make sure that they get the right Medicare plan.
That's a big part. It
is a big plan. Last year we tracked it. For open enrollment, and we saved our clients over around $100,000.
Really?
Yes.
So mistakes people make as far as that goes, I guess signing up for the wrong plan, but that could cost money.
Yeah, certainly signing up for the wrong plan, but often what happens to people is that the plan that they got in when they were age 65 is not necessarily the best plan for them when they're 75. But the problem we see for a lot of our older people is that they're in a plan. Okay, they're paying money for it because you have to pay for these plans, and they're thinking, well, if I change, I don't know if this plan is going to hurt me. But they do know what it's costing them now, and they're going, well, as long as I can keep affording this, maybe I'll just stay in this plan. So there's always a resistance to change.
That makes sense.
And our job is to help, since we don't we don't represent insurance companies. We're not trying to steer anybody to any particular plan. Our job is to give people independent advice, about what plan is best for them. And so, we, as I said last year, we decided to track it, and we realized that, this really is something that, we feel like it's a really valuable service.
That's great. And so, all right, for your typical client, it's that person who's caring for an aging parent. What are some of the things they need to be thinking about? So they come into your office and they're concerned. Kind of walk us through one of those.
So a lot of times a representation will begin by, I'm thinking of one right off the top of my head is that we had the son came in, and he was concerned about his mother because his mother was doing fine for a while. She had an automobile accident. She wound up in assisted living, which is where she is today. He's got a sister that he's dealing with because he's not certain about his sister's. He's concerned about his sister's well-being, but he's concerned because mom has been giving her a lot of money, and so we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we make sure that that mom has enough money to live on? Is there a veterans benefit that she might be entitled to? Because now that she's in an assisted living, perhaps that would be an option for her. But since she does have a little bit of money, there are certain benefits that you can't qualify for. So it's like, okay, so how do we stretch the money out? How do we do a wise estate plan? How do we make sure that the sister gets her share, and no more and no less? All those sorts of things that come into play, when the brother comes in and says, or the son comes in and I'm worried about how I'm going to take care of mom because she was doing fine up until 2 years ago, and now, okay, what are we going to do with the house? Do we need to sell the house? All those sorts of things, everything that that you can kind of think of. That people worry about, that's what the son worries about.
And typically are families on the same page, or typically not?
Typically they are on the same page.
That's good.
And so sometimes, like in this particular case, the daughter she's been kind of, now, it's wrong to say that she's been like preying on mom, but, she's been dependent. And parents often, they see that, and they have money, and they provide, they want to make sure that their children are taken care of, and this person, she doesn't have a spouse, and, and of course he does, the son does, but then after a while it gets to a point where, how much can you, when you're healthy, you can do this. Now that the assisted living is $5,200 a month, you don't have the money to keep doing this.
And you get into those kind of details.
Yes.
$5,200 a month for assisted living. We've talked about on here nursing home care.
Right. Which is typically $7,000, $8,000 a month.
$8,000 a month.
Yeah.
But assisted living, that's going to encompass even more people than nursing home.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah. It already does. There are far more people that are in assisted livings in this country than
so
that
at
are
what
in
point is
nursing
that
homes.
Appropriate, assisted living, and what are we talking about the cost?
Well, if you're looking at like basic assisted living, like for one person, assisted living is a very interesting, thing because, you can have a very you can have a very basic assisted living where you don't get a lot, but you still get assistance. And then you get the ones like where I often say is those are the places where you go and you order off the menu, and there are cloth napkins and so on. And so it's a culture. They're not right or wrong. It's just that there are some places where, if people have money, they would not feel comfortable there because they're not used to that. So a lot of times part of our guidance for our clients, is that just because you would like that assisted living doesn't mean your mom will, and we've seen families make that mistake.
That's interesting. I can see that.
Yeah, and then sometimes, mom was saying, well, that's really not a good fit for me, but there's other places that are. Maybe they have friends there. They visited places, and so that's a very, and the dollar amount, what you pay for assisted living runs anywhere from $3,000, maybe to $5,000 to $6,000 for basic assisted living. So it really is all over a lot because it's about what you get, about the amenities. The basic care, I mean, those are packages that people get. You know, I mean, you can get people, they'll come in and help you dress, bathe, you know, medication management, all of those sorts of things, which what assisted living is. You know, and for a lot of people now, it's becoming, you know, a bridge from, you know, being from home to, you know, being in assisted living so they can age in place. You know, and that's a real different thing that's happened over the last few years, because, you know, this is something I don't think a lot of people realize about assisted living, is that in Tennessee, you have because an assisted living facility is a licensed healthcare facility. You have to meet certain criteria in order to get in. So if you're too low functioning,
right,
you can't get in. But once you get in, you can stay there. You can age in place. You know, and that was a change in the law about 10 years ago.
Oh, really? So
yes.
No matter how far you deteriorate, is that what you're saying?
That's pretty much it. Now,
wow.
There are places like, let's say maybe if you need tube feeding, let's say that you regress to a point in assisted living that you need tube feeding, they can't meet your needs there. You know, but that very seldom happens. So that's one of the things that we have found, that, you know, that's why it's even more important when we tell people, we say, yeah, it's great to be at home, but sometimes for our clients, they miss that there's an opportunity to go to assisted living that may close on them.
Wow.
You know, and when that opportunity closes, you know, and then they can't stay at home anymore because maybe the caregiver can't keep going, or they don't have the money to hire people to come in, all sorts of reasons why they couldn't stay at home because it's not safe, then they're going, well, I guess I need to look for assisted living, and it's like they can't get in.
They can't get in. Wow. See, now that's something I didn't know, but that's a mistake people could make.
That's a mistake people could make.
As we kind of set the table here for the discussion, and I want people to call in and share their stories, what are some big mistakes I guess you see people make? That's a fascinating one. They wait, it makes sense. You wait as long as you can, and then there's a certain window it's passed for assisted living.
That's a big mistake that people make, you know, is that they stay in their home too long. Other mistakes that they make are, you know, they've got money and they don't spend it. That's probably the biggest mistake. I mean, it's seriously.
But I would say they want to give money to their kids, right? They want to.
Sometimes they do.
Pass on to the next generation, or they just are so used to saving.
They're so used to saving, you know. And a lot of times, you know, we're kind of like, you know, when I started doing this work in 25 years or so ago, you know, there really was a real sense of, okay, we need to save and save, but see, that generation, you know, that 25 years ago, the children, they're now the ones that are going to assisted living.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and then those children's children are coming in to see us, and they're going, you know, I don't want mom's money. You know, I don't want to be the caregiver. I want mom to use her money, because they didn't grow up in the Depression. Mm-hmm. You know, their mom and dad did.
Right.
You know, they were like, they were in their like, I don't know, you know, they were growing up in their, you know, they were in their 5s and 6 or whatever. They were, you know, they were youths, not infants, but anyway.
They were very young.
They were very young, and so they understood what depression meant. You know, but then the people like me that were born after the war, you know, my aging parent, you know, she's living at home and doing fine, and it's like, great. Mm-hmm. Great. I don't want your money. Just make sure she's taken care of.
Right.
You know, she's where she lives in the same town as my sister does. She's in good health, and I want her to use her money. You know, I don't need her money. I want her to be taken care of.
Make sure they use resources to take care of themselves.
Right.
And that's a big mistake.
Right. And we tell you is spend what you need to spend today to take care of yourself today. You know, that's kind of that's why we've always put it.
Well, we're going to open up the phone lines. We'll encourage you to call in. I think Alfred is on one. Why don't we take Alfred, and then we'll go to break, and then we'll take some other calls. But Alfred, why don't we go ahead with you right now? Hello, Alfred.
Hi there.
Hey. What's on your mind, Alfred?
I've got a certain problem with a neighbor that I've been having. Yes. I've been having a certain problem with a neighbor that hollers and calls me names. I'm disabled, and I've talked to Nick Barris about it and see what's going on with this guy. And we have me and my neighbors have a real problem with this gentleman. He's mental, and I've discussed this with the police, and the district attorney's office, and they keep telling me there's nothing they can do to this gentleman.
Right. All right. Well, I don't know if that's elder law, but what?
Well, what I'm thinking is that, I mean, if we put like that, maybe the elder law thing on it is let's assume that it's his 80-year-old neighbor who has like demented or maybe has some cognitive impairment. You know, it could be that, you know, it could be a phone call to Adult Protective Services. You know, maybe if the person is impaired or incapacitated. You know, that a person like that being in the court system, you know, really doesn't help that person, because it sounds like that person has some sort of, you know, some chronic illness or cognitive impairment. You know, so the basic legal system doesn't work. The question really is what kind of care does that person need? You know, and maybe it could be, you know, like I said, you know, talking to Adult Protective Services and saying look, you know, I don't know who this person is, but he seems to be a neglected person. He's a neglected, you know, older adult, you know, and would you come in and check on him?
Come in and check on the neighbor. And let's say the neighbor is just trying to harass an older person. Let's say Alfred is older and he feels harassed by this neighbor. Where can somebody like that turn? Yeah, and see, now you're looking at, you know, maybe, you know, Alfred needs to hire a lawyer, because it could be a civil case. He could be, you know, filing, you know, is he trespassing? You know, is he, obviously he's harassing. You know, so it could be he winds up in civil court asking for a restraining order. Yeah, that sort of thing. You know, unfortunately, you know, people, you know, bad neighbors can turn into worse. Yeah. It's one thing to be a bad neighbor, you know, but it's another thing to be like harassing neighbor. You know? But as far as, you know, getting back to elder care, as we set the table, we're going to go to break. I encourage people to call in. You know, what are you caring for an aging loved one? Do you have questions about that? Do you yourself have questions about moving forward as you personally age? Here's the number to call: 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.